to the Robin Hood Capitalist. Your host, DJ Flores. With me, as always, my special host, co-host, and advisor, Coach Stacy V. Coach, so we actually got on a minute early today, so I'm proud of us. We were prepared. We had everything. Again, fingers crossed, y'all. We had one little freeze, so if I freeze, it's my fault probably. If we freeze here, it might be me this time. But hopefully, we just put it out there and it never happens. So, again, Coach, I how was the weekend? Obviously, I know I don't want to talk about football, but we can talk about other things. So, no.
No, my weekend was actually really, really good. So it was my son's birthday, and so my son, daughter-in-law, and
Yes,
grandkids,
I seen that. Happy birthday, James.
we all met at my daughter and son-in-law's house, and just had some good family time for the weekend, and had some good North Carolina barbecue, and just had a good time. So it was a super weekend. Couldn't have been any better.
Ah, well, that's a good way to spend it. Now, I will tell you. So, Virginia Beach here. Anybody familiar with? There's always something going on. This weekend was King Neptune's festival, which is kind of cool. They had sandcastles. They had the dogs. They actually had the pond with the dogs jumping. That was my highlight of this weekend because the Browns game was not. Again, our guest coming up. They'll know why I brought that up. Cleveland peeps coming up as our guest here soon, and really can't wait to have them on. But again,
I've said it before. I've said it again. You should be working for the Cleveland Chamber of Commerce or tourism guides or something.
we'll let them
You
know.
promote Cleveland more than any human being on earth.
Hey, it's all about. Well, listen, I'm giving. So, Coach, I'm gonna give a little insight. It's all about branding, y'all. Now, everybody will ever and forever know me as Cleveland, even though I'm not there anymore. I'm in Virginia Beach. But before I did leave, leave Cleveland for Virginia Beach, and actually before even meeting this amazing couple that we're gonna have on. So, literally was in the transition period, like I think some of you all might still be in. COVID rocked everybody's world. Again, we'll get into with our next guest and how it kind of changed theirs. That's how we met. So COVID changed mine, went from logistics, kind of blew my book of business up and my team. So was like, okay, what's next? So me and Maggie decided to take on not really connecting the dots. I guess I decided to figure that out later. But tried to create our own Amazon. I don't know. We're never competing with Jeff Bezos. I think he has the market cap there. So I don't know what we were doing, but we tried to create an online liquidation. At that time, thought, okay, I could go back to BNI. I loved networking. BNI had just opened back up. COVID again, the restrictions, all that stuff came down. I got to meet Daniela and Tony. They were just starting a new franchise called House Doctors. And so I was like, wow, that is so needed. I came from the service industry, especially the home improvement industry. A lot of big companies won't do the small jobs. Handyman are always needed. So it was just a great like niche to be in. So I was like, you guys are gonna kill it. BNI, this is what you got to do. You guys are gonna kill it. So I think they ended up staying with BNI. We'll get into that. We'll get into kind of what they're doing and what's next. But Coach, any thoughts? You got to talk to them a little bit backstage before we bring them out.
Yeah, I don't want to give it away. This is going to be really good. And anybody out there that's in that corporate rat race thinking about making a change, or maybe you just have made the jump, I think you're going to learn something. So open the ears, get the pen and notepads ready, and let's all learn something together. This is going to be fun.
Let's go.
You get one heartbeat song. Take it seriously. This is your masterpiece. Don't forget to dream and taste the colors in the air you breathe. It's your masterpiece. Go ahead and feel it all. Don't stop till it is beautiful. Don't stop till it is beautiful. Don't stop till it is beautiful.
All right. So here we have Tony, Daniela, Bianca of House Doctors. Thank you guys for joining us. Of
Thanks for having
Yeah,
us.
thank you for having us.
course, of course. No, so I want to get right into it. So obviously, in our intro shared, we met at BNI. Are you guys still part of BNI?
We are. Daniela attends every Wednesday morning, and then I fill in when she's not going to make it. So we're still there, and they're actually still meeting in the same place that we met.
No
Believe it or
kidding.
not. They moved it, I think, for a short period of time, and then, but yeah, we're still back at the dealership over there.
I love it. So anybody who doesn't know, BNI, I'm a big proponent of it. Network marketing. Your network is your net worth. I promise. It's just the truth. You are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Remember that. Um,
Very true.
so you guys, I knew when I met you guys at that BNI, I knew like you guys are gonna kill it. I knew it was a great niche. I knew you guys had the right idea, but again, we like Coach had plugged and talked about. I knew that you had mentioned the transition and even a recent story, and I'll plug that here. Um, but recent story shared, your corporate transition from the corporate world to owning a franchise. So, what was that like? Corporate transition to a new business. We'll get into the other businesses you have because obviously you have that business experience, but more that corporate transition to the franchise. How was that?
You
Yeah, so we tried initially going with both of us working full time. Took us 3 months to figure out that one of us had to exit. So it was we launched in August of 21, and in November of 21 is when I exited corporate. I worked for a family-owned local company. They're worldwide, great company. Was there for 10 years. Learned, and I always say this, I learned a lot of what I do now or my knowledge now comes from that, right? I was in marketing, turned over to more training and development. So a lot of that stuff I incorporate into our business today. But yeah, it took us 3 months, and then Tony was continuing to work full time. And then this past November is when he exited.
Yeah, that was on one hand, I would say overdue, and on the other hand, like the biggest freak out of my life, right? It was kind of one of those things. I was more nervous to do that than to, we had our firstborn child 2 months later. We got married 2 years or a year and a half before that, and those things didn't freak me out as much as it was, all right, now it's really all on my own, right? And I would tell you that on one hand, it was very liberating, and on the other hand, at 3 a.m. came around and you went, what did I do? A couple times. So
what kind of things were going on in both of your corporate kind of jobs that sort of gave you the itch? What kind of started this whole journey?
Great question.
So I think it really came to us during COVID. We're stuck at home. She, of course, had the corner office in our house, and I had the littler one. Right, that's how it went. CEO, worker bee, right? But so we were both just kind of getting, I think, tired is a good way of putting it. With corporate life, while to Daniela's point, there's no way I would have had any level of confidence to do what we're doing today if it weren't for all of the lessons we learned there. And there's a big value to that. At some point, you kind of hit your spot and your ceiling, and you're kind of over it in a way, right? And I think we really decided that we wanted to have something of ourselves, make more of ourselves, have something for ourselves, and create a culture that did the things that didn't necessarily do what the culture was supposed to do for us, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Maybe I could have worded that better, but it was probably middle of the summer that year. I stepped away from my desk and walked into her office and said, hey, we need to figure something out, right? Like, one thing that this has taught us is that we need to figure something out. And then it was, okay, what is that? Right. So that was step one, is, hey, we got to do something. And then it was, okay, what is that thing? Right.
Yeah.
And, probably a month or two later, we actually started a conversation. I had a gentleman reach out to me. His name's Neil, from the Entrepreneur Source, reach out to me. Hey, have you ever considered owning your own company? And I'm like, funny enough, yeah, we've been considering it now for 2.5 months. I just don't have any good ideas, right? Like, we know how to operate, but I was never the best idea guy, right? So we started talking with Neil and had multiple discussions over probably 3 or 4 months. And he made the introduction to Premium Service Brands. And, at that time, we were under a little bit of a different name. It was called Handyman Pro. And there was 9 or 10 of them across the country. And, after a lot of conversation, we decided to buy into it and, then launch about 6 months, 8 months later in 2021. So.
Wow.
No. Awesome. So it's kind of funny. It sounds like you weren't. It doesn't sound like you were totally unhappy where you were. You just felt the need to do something different, and so I know that is a risk. So when you said earlier that you were, more nervous about this than anything ever before, what was it really that you were most nervous about?
So I think there's this feeling with corporate life, right? Because you're not responsible for anything but yourself there, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's somebody else's game plan. You just have to go execute, right? Every once in a while, you'll throw an idea up there. Maybe it sticks, maybe it doesn't. And, the rest of the time that, the path is kind of there, right? And there's something nice about not having to worry that you're going to get paid every other week or whatever the case is. And, benefits and so on and so forth. You didn't have to go solve for that. And I think that little bit of a safety blanket after, 20 some years in corporate life, call it, having that one pulled out from underneath you, even when you're pulling it yourself, right? Creates a little trepidation of, oh God, what did I do? Right?
Yeah, definitely. Now during that time with Neil, did he show you a few different brands, or like what process did he really go through to, like, how did you end up with Premium Service Brands or with, House Doctors, where you ended up?
Yeah. So we talked about 3 or 4 times before we even discussed like avenues of business. So we did a questionnaire. I think we did then another round of questionnaires, and talked to him probably 2 or 3 times about what that questionnaire kind of revealed, right? And then, he had roughly 20 different ones on a list, if I remember correctly, and gave me the short, little 2-sentence intro about what each brand does and what the point and purpose of them are. And then we narrowed it down to things that, we found of interest. It may sound silly because I don't do much of the hands-on work anymore, right, at all. But like this was kind of a hobby of mine at one point, right? Tinkering around the house, fixing the deck, painting, doing all those types of things. So we felt comfortable enough from that perspective. And I think I talked to about 3 or 4 others in conjunction with Premium Service Brands. And then we brought you in on a couple calls once we narrowed it down.
Yeah, I think for us, it was narrowing it down to Premium Service Brands. We had the opportunity to go down to Virginia, their corporate office, and meet with their executives and really see the ins and outs. So Premium Service Brands, they encompass, I think it's about 9 different brands, and it's all within the home service industry.
I'll actually throw it up for you. I got it here. So
there you go. See? So there it is. Yeah. So there's a paint company, there's a garage, maids, cleaning services, and so on. House Doctors, which is more handyman services and home remodeling. But going back to the executives that we met, and really their values and mission really stuck to what we wanted to do. And even before this process, Tony and I sat down and really thought about whatever business we go into, what is our mission? Really, what do we want to accomplish with these businesses? And we sat down and really thought about it and said, you know what, we want to have a place where we can provide quality employment for people to grow, where our employees can grow, and then also provide a service, right? So that can encompass whatever business we go into, but we knew that we wanted to take care of our employees first, and then in turn, we'd have happy customers then too. So premium service brands aligned with that mission, and we kind of went from there.
Yeah, it was pretty entertaining because we had many, and at that time, I think Daniela got really annoyed with me, to be fair, because we had many evenings where we had a big whiteboard in the basement. I'd be like, all right, let's go to the whiteboard. Come on. And 3 hours later, I'm still writing and racing, and she's going, all right, you're done tonight, or at least I am. So good night.
And not to mention that we actually got married in May of that same year. So at the same time we were planning a wedding, we were looking at businesses. So we got married in May, launched the business in August. So
all right, Coach. So what kind of coaching advice do you have for that?
right in the middle of COVID too. So it's not like there was
Trifecta.
so much going on. Before we get too far away from it, though, what was the due diligence like? And as you said, you met with them in Virginia. Are they out of Charlottesville?
They are. Yeah.
That's a beautiful part of the world, so that's a good place to visit no matter what, I think. But and so you did that visit. What other kind of things did you do for your due diligence to make the decision?
So we had probably, I don't even know how many different phone calls we were on with them. We had met the majority of the executives, either at least via video conference, or just at least a phone call. I think we spoke to 3 or 4 of the coaches, a handful of other franchisees. Matt Reeves was the gentleman that we worked with, who was more of the franchise development guy. So I'd talked to him, and he was great because it was, I'd have a random question on a Saturday morning, and I'd shoot Matt a text, and he'd answer it inside of like 10 minutes. And, then it's like, well, what'd you end up doing this weekend? I was at the softball game for my kids and this, that, the other. And I'm going, oh, you could have just told me to wait till Monday, but you know what I mean? So we had multiple conversations with everybody, and we did that, I can't remember what they call it, but where they almost do Discovery Day is what they call it.
Okay. Yeah.
Where
you know about those, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And we had tons of conversations with other executives, heads of departments and things like that, really trying to learn how they worked and what the best course of action was as a franchisee to work with them the best. And I think, anybody who's exploring that, I think those are really good questions to ask is, because you want to make sure that you guys, not only is your mission similar, right, but your work style is similar as well, because if not, that partnership might be a little tricky.
We had the opportunity to speak with other franchise owners too.
Yeah. At least 4 or 5. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. And it seems to be a growing franchise. It looks like maybe 60 plus units now or something.
Yeah, thereabouts. I think they're in the mid 50s, so they should, they'll probably get up to 60 before the end of the year.
Yeah, and that's just for the House Doctors brand. So that's that's really good. The so you got into this, and you mentioned this before we got on, and I'm going to butcher the wording and just maybe say something different. But you said when you start looking and you get that itch to be an entrepreneur, there's a lot of noise on the internet and a lot of disinformation, maybe we'll call it. So what were some of the things you faced when you just started doing the Google searches and trying to figure this thing out?
Yeah, so it's kind of one of those things where, let's face it, right? Small business employs 50% or more of America as it is, and not everybody is driving a Bugatti with a $40 million house on the bay at Fort Lauderdale or anything, right?
Yeah.
You must see my Twitter and all my social media ads pop up.
Yeah, I just started following you too, by the way. But I think there's this aura of I'm going to be a business owner. I'll just be successful, right? And I can I would even tell you sometimes it was said in corporate life too. The further up you go, the less hard work you do, and I would probably argue that it is completely inverse if you decide to go build something from the ground up, right? There was a lot of time where it's 8, 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night, and we're putting our heads together trying to solve a problem. And I think, you get lost a little bit in that. And when you follow the ultra successful, and I'm sure they still work hard too. I'm not saying that they don't, right? But, when you're still in your 1,700 square foot house, you're not moving to a $2 million mansion anytime soon, right? And you got to build that, and you got to understand that you got to love to solve problems, and you're going to be solving problems for a long time.
Yes, it's quite different when you're signing the front of the paycheck, and nobody really understands the psychology behind that, but it's a big difference.
For sure, yeah. And
So when you made that jump, what were and I mean, I guess I'll do a two-parter here. What were some of the general challenges and kind of obstacles you had as you were getting started and learning the ropes? But then also, how about the dynamic of working together? Sometimes that can go one of two ways.
So far, it's gone one. You want to?
So yeah, there's days that we have to work in separate rooms. So it's there are those days, right? We think differently, which is a good thing, right?
It really is.
He's more
Absolutely.
strategic, more high level. I'm more day-to-day task oriented, right? So he's thinking here. There's days that I have to bring him down and say, okay, what do we have to do now? And then opposite, right? He's saying, okay, well, this is where we're going to be in a year, 3 years, 5 years, right? So it's that happy balance, right? But yeah, there's all those challenges for sure.
Yeah, I think, there's also, and I want to be careful how I say this because I don't want to mislead anybody, but I think there's also a psychology behind it where you made the comment, right? You're signing the front of the paycheck, not the back all the time anymore. And I think that responsibility shift, was a little bit of a challenge in the initial run, as well as, just understanding that, like in corporate life, you move up, everybody just looks to you, and whatever you say oftentimes is the way the world's going to go for that day, right?
Yeah.
And even in your insulated little pocket of the world there, when you get into entrepreneurship, boy, is it humbling. She made the comment that we think differently, and sometimes that's good. I mean, oftentimes it's better than the alternative, but you got to really learn. It's much different than being in that one track. I was a sales leader, so it was ops. It was their problem, right? If we couldn't get it done, it was operations issue. It was customer services issue. It was the credit.
My man, right? I knew we connected. I like to give it to ops too. Ops, take over.
Yeah, I'm out. I did my job, right? And the whole thing is your job now. So, now it's time to really go, okay, I got to learn something here, because I'll tell you, I've read more books in the past 2 years than I've probably read in, the first 38, right?
Awesome.
Yeah. Smart. Good for you for doing that. That's the way to go.
If both of I love the fact you said that you think differently, because if both of you think exactly alike, then one of you isn't needed in the business. And so the fact that you are utilizing the different skills and the different ways, behavior styles and ways of thinking, I think it's powerful for your success. I think that's really good. But I can't let the book comment go without what are you reading? What's something that maybe we should stick our heads into?
So right now I'm reading the new David Goggins book, Can't Hurt Me, which is really, really good. It's aggressive, right? And if you know him, or you wouldn't expect anything less, right? But one of my favorites is The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek. Leaders Eat Last. Recently read that one. Then I read some more subject matter ones, like Tommy Mello's latest, as well as The 7-Power Contractor, and just things that are more subject matter to what we do every day. But I like to kind of do one or two that way, and then one or two that are more just leadership strategy different things like that, more mindset stuff. Because I think it's important that you build a lot of mental toughness in this, because, there are days where you wake up and you're like, oh God, this is going to be tough. This is going to be a little bit of a rocky day, maybe rocky 2 or 3 days. Right.
There have been multiple days that I look at Tony and I go, I'm going back to corporate life. I'm just
Yeah.
I can't do this. I'm going back. It takes about 10 minutes for him to say, well, that freedom you wouldn't have, that flexibility, right, doesn't come with that. So rethink that. And so we get aligned more so than, right.
Yeah. And that creates, it's an entertaining challenge as a married couple too, because then you kind of got to coach each other. Right. And you have to build the other person up a little bit sometimes and go, hey, listen, it'll be okay. We'll figure it out. And, she has to do that for me sometimes too, because my mind will just go and she'll be like, did you sleep last night? No, not really. Okay. Well, you need to take a minute off and maybe get some sleep. Right. So, it does. It creates an entertaining dynamic. And what I would also say is you really get to know your spouse, like, really well. And I think it's interesting because oftentimes when you're at work, you have your work life and then you have your home life.
Yeah.
There is no such thing anymore. Right. like the old adage, you set your work problems at the door, you set your home problems at the door, put it in a paper bag, and they'll be there when you walk out. That doesn't happen, right?
Yeah.
Even if she works from home and I work from our office, right? So, but it's knowing what I know now, I wouldn't have it any other way. So
that's great. That's fantastic.
That is great. And again, everybody, so anybody just catching this or hopping in later, this is Tony and Daniela from House Doctors. They are with the premium, actually, I'll throw up this one instead, the premium brand services. So these are all the different brands they have. So now let's talk about the transition of growth of Next, because I heard you when we talked backstage, you and Daniela, and said Tony's always 1 year, 3 years. So clearly you're a planner like me, Tony. I'd love to hear that. So what is the next goal? And I heard you guys are you already in the process of getting a new territory? Are you thinking of it, or you did it?
Well, we did it. We I guess technically launched it yesterday.
Congrats.
So thank you. It's, to her point about being strategic and things like that, I look at it as we've got to continue to grow the business, stay in our lane, and, then we can kind of actually scale it properly. Out of our first territory, this is our second full year, and we should be right around $1 million in revenue for the year.
Wow, good for you guys.
Thank you. And our goal then for next year is to effectively double it and add this territory, really get it running smooth. And, it's really about servicing as many customers as we possibly can and servicing them well, right? Our employees see it because as we continue to add layers and layers and layers, then there's places for them to grow. And then they want to go help the customers even more and more and more. So it's that symbiotic relationship that you have to have. But you got to set strategies and know that there's going to be bumps. Know there's going to be days that she wants to throw something at me, and you take it and you move on, right? But so we just launched that, and we've got some work lined up for it for next week, and we're excited for that, what that piece can do for our company and for our employees. And I always say, you think about it, we want to build a company, and I think that's different from building a business. Building a company is with people and getting a group of people aligned on one or two common goals. Building a business is a grouping of customers that turn to you for service. So we want to ensure that we're building the right type of company that continues to feed itself business, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so hitting a million that quick, that's fantastic. So when you first started, what was the size of the staff? How many people did you have on, and what does that look like now? How have you grown?
So we had one guy, and Daniela, you were still working full time, and I was still working full time. So we really only had one guy,
He was doing the estimating and work.
and we were doing
kidding.
schedules at night. So, and now we're up to 9 full-time employees plus ourselves. So,
Wow.
and the
That's
goal
awesome.
next year is, I think, to be about 15.
Well, you definitely have the right. I mean, what you led with leading with the employees and that mindset of culture, and obviously the books you're reading, Simon Sinek, Infinite Game. I mean, if people haven't read that game, like you need, like that's life, yo. Like that
Yeah.
is life. Like this game doesn't end. There's new levels. It gets really fun as you get to the better levels. But like the goal is really networking and you win as a team. You don't win alone. You can only go so far in this game alone. And that's but the infinite game, you nailed it with that. And clearly you guys have the right mentality of the growth and so we're 5 years, 10 years. What are we looking at? I like the exciting things. I'm already there. Where what's the hopes or visions?
So I would say we've got it set for 3 years right now, to be about triple the size of where we are. And then in 5 years to almost level off a little bit and be able to keep the company somewhat automatic, right?
Yeah.
So that we can actually go work on bringing additional resources in. And I don't necessarily mean money as much as I mean just taking some extra costs out, making sure that the guys have new trucks, turning all that stuff over. That's really, really important. We want to be out of the day-to-day by that point and really continuing to grow this business. I think we did some research a while back, and I think in our two territories alone, we can employ, like I said, at least 15 to 16 full-time people and be able to share some profits and some different things with them so that they can continue to grow too. And I think that's, probably $5 million is going to be our top line. And that might be our ceiling here in this industry for right now. But you never know. I mean, inflation always comes up, and who knows what things are going to cost in 5 years from now. So,
Very good point.
That's kind of where we are set. And what we also enjoy doing is, at some point helping others, and do a consultative type role where we can help others, learn how to utilize their franchisor the best, learn how to partner the best, and what metrics to really measure and how to go implement. Because it's great if we just help our team, but there's a lot of other people out there that can go help their team if we go help them.
Yeah.
And I think,
Love it.
and by no means am I saying that we're the experts, because we got a lot to learn, and we've learned a lot, and we've got a lot more to go. But I think that there's that avenue to go help other people is really, really interesting to us.
Absolutely. I'm guessing you're getting that vibe a little bit, and we won't dig too deep into that, but BNI seems to be a good pool of people that can use that help. So I know what you're talking about there. But I want to go into the Zor. Again, we put them up. I'll put them up again. But premium service brands, I've seen they've sent you some amazing packages. I also see that they have something called Kids Lift. I'm not going to stop without talking about that because I thought that was amazing. And I seen you guys won a cool award for Kids Lift. Talk a little bit about what that is. What is Kids? It's called Kids Lift, right?
It's
correct.
Yep,
Kids Lift.
it's Kids Lift.
Okay, yeah.
And I'll let Daniela kind of talk about it. She, when we talk about dividing roles and responsibilities, she handles a lot more of this stuff, the marketing and the HR, because to be fair, I'm terrible at it. Right?
So yeah, Kids Lift. One of the things that we really loved about premium service brands is giving back. So with that, their mission, it's basically their own nonprofit, and it's giving back to local communities, specific to schools, doing type of book bag giveaways and toy drives, and but also whether it's in your local community giving back in any way. It doesn't have to be just for schools, right? So we've made a kind of initiative within our company here to say, you know what, quarterly we want to be able to give back. So what does that look like? We've been able to do local things of giving back and going to Camp Cheerful, which is something we recently did in the summer, local to our area. They work with disabled children and adults, campus of several acres, right?
Yeah.
They've got different things on their campus. And we went there and renovated a couple things, right? We went in, painted certain things, did
some flooring
tiles, and just spent a day there. We had lunch, and just for our employees, and we still have to this day, people they're saying, when are we going back? When are we going to be able to give back? For them, it's that purpose, right?
Yeah.
At the Christmas time, we're going to be doing some Adopt a Families with Littlest Heroes, which works with kids with pediatric cancer. So yeah, we just try to be able to give back locally in our community.
Yeah, and Kids Lift is a good avenue to help usher that. So
I love it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So and let's say we've got somebody in the audience right now that's thinking about making the jump to entrepreneurship. They're considering franchising or not. We talk a lot about franchising here because that's our experience, and having a really good franchisor is super important. So what kind of support have you gotten from your franchisor, from House Doctors?
So I would say that the franchisor, it's really tough to give anybody 100%, right? But they're pretty darn close. I would say they're as close as you can get. We have a really good relationship with the brand lead. We have a good relationship with the CEO of the franchise. And, it's that type of, if we texted either of them and said, hey, look, do you have a minute? They'll make time to have a conversation because they know we're not, they know we're trying to do something that's going to make sense for everybody. As well as, they're that type of people. They're a very service oriented type of franchisor. So I think, we view our employees as our customers sometimes, right? And our employees should view our customers as their customers. The franchisor views us as like their customer, right? They want to make sure that they take care of us. And I think they do a really good job. They're always introducing different ways to market, different resources. We're actually part of an advisory council to kind of help steer the brand a little bit and provide some of those resources for some of the other 40-some, 50-some franchisees out there. There's 5 of us on there on that panel. So they invest a lot of time and resources into their franchisees. So that really, top-notch type of company.
That's really good.
One
of the things
it sounds like it.
Yeah, one of the things we've said in multiple times is a good franchisor will be the best business partner you've ever had. But a bad franchisor will, that's going to go. So when starting out, not having done this before, you mentioned you had one employee, you were doing scheduling and they were out doing estimates and that sort of thing. What was the training like to get you ready to do those things?
You want to tackle that one first, or you want me to?
I always speak to, initially when we started, it was us being customer service rep, being everything, right? So I remember the days going to BNI networking groups or going to chamber of commerce meetings and getting phone calls, right? I had Post-it notes in my car of scheduling, right? So it was 5 months later that I said, we got to have somebody dedicated just to scheduling, because it was, my head was spinning at that point. There was weeks that I was like, can't do this. We need help. And, but yeah, it was a whirlwind for sure.
Yeah. And they did 3 weeks of virtual training to get started on a lot of the different functions. There was a marketing call, there was an operations call, there was, a lot of those types of things to at least give you some framework. and then we were there for a full week. I think it was a full week to really kind of go through and reiterate some of that framework. So, they did a lot from that perspective. But yeah, I mean, boy,
we were learning as we were going.
there
There was very little training even for our employees. It was more of, hey, we need to just go. Let's figure it out as we go.
Let's just make this happen. Yeah,
Right
let's
now
make it happen together.
slowly doing some SOPs and process, and we're getting there. But initially, it was just go, just figure it out as we go.
I love it.
go back to my comment about sales versus ops, right? I'm a sales guy, right? Just we'll figure it out later. Just go sell it and
Just
Say
sell
yes.
it. Yeah.
Say yes, and we'll
Just make
figure
sure
it
you
out.
get enough money.
right. That one wasn't so profitable. All right, don't do that again, right?
Oh no. Yeah, exactly. Oh my goodness. So I got to go back to something real quick. So shout out to my wife, and I thought Camp Cheerful triggered something. So Maggie says we love Camp Cheerful. That's awesome. So my wife worked at NCC, if you guys are familiar with that, Northeast Care Center, and I think they do a lot of stuff up there. So shout out NCC. But yeah, they've done. I know Maggie went up there for a few different things at Camp Cheerful, which is great. So it's really cool that you guys do that. And again, it sounds like there's again. Now I want to know. I wanted to go back real quick. I love that you guys are on the brand Did you call it the advisory panel?
Yeah.
That's not.
Yep.
Do each of their brands have that? Or
I can't speak for all of them. I do believe there's several.
Okay.
For each of their brands.
Well, for you guys, they do. That is super cool. Like I think that's smart. Good. Shout out to Premium Service Brands. I think that's a great idea. That's the way to make sure that your franchisees feel their voices heard.
And for anybody listening, that's a question to ask as you're doing your due diligence. Do you have an advisory council, and if so, who's on it? Because I'd like to talk to them.
Yeah, and
I
would say that we've got varying levels of people on it, right? People that have been doing it for 18 years, then there's us that have been doing it for 2. Our neighbor, there's a lady, her name's Jessica, that has the one right next door to us, right? And so she's on it as well. And so it's they run the gauntlet of tenure, I guess is a good way of putting it.
That's good. Good franchisors listen, because the franchisees see a lot more of what's really going on in the real world than the franchisor does. So good ones do listen. So that's really good. When since you've got this 2 years in, you made the jump. You said you were nervous, and everything is going quite well, it sounds like. So what would you say surprised you? What was something that stands out as, I really wasn't expecting that?
There's only one. Right? We can only pick one. I think there's a general feeling, at least from my view, and I'll you tell me, but I don't think we realized just how much you need to invest into it personally, right? Like, you buy a franchise, you buy a system, you're expecting it's kind of cookie cutter and everything. And, that's not to speak ill of anything, but you really need to make it your own. If you want it to work, you really need to make it your own. And I think the other crazy part about the whole thing is, I think about it as much as I think of our of our children, right? It's like an extension of your everyday life, right? And so I think that there is I don't want to say it consumes you, because it doesn't, but at the same token, if you don't care, it'll show, right? If that makes sense, and you have to care to make it what you want it to be.
Absolutely. Yeah. I agree. And going back to what you kind of said in the beginning, about there's just the I forgot my point where I wanted to go back to.
Were you going back to the responsibility?
Yes,
Because that's a big balance a lot of people face is all of a sudden you have all
yes.
of this autonomy and all of this freedom, but what as a leader you have to understand is a lot of stuff's going to happen that's not your fault, but everything is your responsibility now. And so
Right.
so it's always a big pull. How do you manage that new autonomy with the responsibilities and find that right mix of how to spend your time so that it doesn't consume you?
Nailed it. And it's almost like you adopted another family, is kind of what I wanted to get to with that responsibility. Like you said, you think about it like you're almost as much as your kids, but I don't think people really grasp that it's your business, your team is just like an extension of your team at home. And I think it's where at least for me, I think it's where it's that it crosses that fine line of where people say business and personal, and
Mhm.
there is no, oh, it's just business. I think everything at once you bring this baby, now it seems that everything is personal. It's all personal. Like there's no, oh, it's just business. Like there's no such thing as that anymore. I feel like, so yeah, I think the responsibility, and you nailed it, Coach. You must have been reading my mind, but yeah, I went right back to, oh man, he
I
said,
could see what you were thinking.
yeah, you could. You definitely could. So again, just want to wrap up and let these guys kind of give where you guys can reach out to them if you have any questions. Again, they do want to take that mentoring role, which I love that you brought that up, Tony. And so thank you for that. I think there's never enough of that. Again, don't be afraid to ask for help, y'all. This is why I think this is why we're doing it. I know this is why me and Coach do this. This is why Tony said what they're wanting to do. So reach out. If you feel like
Hey,
that's the
and
other,
hey, DJ, while we're on this, if there
go,
is there
go
is there
ahead.
a shout out for someone that maybe was a business mentor for you guys?
Oh yeah.
I don't think there was necessarily an individual. I would say that, I was fortunate to have really good leadership at my time in corporate from pretty much everybody that I worked with or for. Yes, technically for, but I never felt like I worked for them, right? If that makes sense.
That's the right way to
Um,
do it.
Yeah.
so the leadership I received at I would say my big three companies, right? Cardinal Health, Box Out, and NCS, um, you know, was just there was different life lessons that I learned from each grouping of people that gave me the confidence to do it, right? And even going back to certain things now, when you think about them again, you're like, oh, that's what they were getting at, right? So,
I would be willing to bet there's a lot of folks out there that are right thinking about it and they feel like they don't have enough. And in reality, the things that they've been learning along the way is enough to at least take the first step and get moving.
and what about for you? Anybody
Yeah,
specific?
there's no one specific, but to your point, it's. So I worked at Vitamix for 10 years, and just the people, and I still have contacts there, right? That I meet with monthly, and just reach out. Hey, I'm dealing with this situation. Can you help with this? Or what are your thoughts on this? So I think to your point, it's that corporate relationships that you really build and take with you, for sure. And to your point, as far as mentorship, is we take validation calls for house doctors now too. It's probably 2 a week of prospects that are looking to purchase, and we are willing to do that, take our time, because we were at that point, right? We want to be able to give back and have those conversations. So anyone that's looking, and feel free to reach out to us, LinkedIn. We can even share with DJ our emails. Just reach out to us. Well, we're happy to have those conversations.
Love it. Love it, Coach. See that? And again, y'all, so this is Tony and Daniela of House Doctors, and that's part of the premium service brand. So, like they said, reach out. You can reach out to them on LinkedIn. We are here on LinkedIn. Coach, final thoughts before we wrap this up?
I have really just thoroughly enjoyed this. I love this kind of a
Me too.
conversation. I've spent the last 25 years or so working with franchisees that are just starting and getting to that level of success. And your story is it's inspirational. I just absolutely love it. So I just really appreciate the fact that you came on and talked to us and our audience today.
Well, thank you guys for having us. It's been a lot of fun, and it's been entertaining for you guys to remind us of things that we did 2 years ago. Probably she wants to slap me.
No slapping. You guys have done great together. And look, you have an amazing thing going. It looks like you have the right path, the right vision. You guys definitely, again, yin and yang, like Coach said. And shout out to John Hewitt. But if there's everybody has the same opinion, one person's not needed in the room. So yeah, you guys having that different opinions is what is obviously going to make you guys a great team like you are, but continue to grow. So yeah, it's exciting to see you guys growing something back home. So go Cleveland. I got to give, again, they're in Strongsville, y'all, Strongsville, Ohio. So if you're looking for handyman service, look no further. Don't be shot down by those big corporate monsters, home improvement companies that only want the big jobs. Go to these guys. They'll take care of you. That's my plug for you, because I believe in this service. I've seen too many times. I felt so disappointed. Like, why can't we help them? Like they don't know anybody else to do this. And oh, it's too small of a job. It's too small. Get out of here. We can find something else. Let's just win a customer. So for all you big companies out there shooting down small jobs, don't do it. They lead to big jobs, and they lead to happy customers. That's the way you make the difference. Again,
I may not be I may not be the worst handyman in the world, but I'm in the conversation. So this is the kind of service I rely on.
yes, the honeydew list. If you have a honeydew list, or your wife has a honeydew list, make sure you reach out to somebody like the House Doctors. Obviously, look them up on premium service brands. If they're not in your area, maybe you need to be it. But again, thank you all for joining us. Thank you guys for joining us. This was awesome, and I'm so glad we were able. When I seen that story that you guys recently, it was shared on LinkedIn. Look for it, guys. They just had a great story from premium service brands done about all they've done and their journey. So you can see it on Daniela's LinkedIn. That's where I seen it. I was like, man, I have to reach out to them. I have to get them on. I remember meeting you guys. I knew you guys were going to kill it. So we'll have to do this again. Maybe 3 years, you'll be at, what did you say, 5 locations? Maybe even before that. But we'll definitely have to do this again just to check in. Definitely want to see how things are going. So again, shout out Cleveland. Shout out to Camp Cheerful and everybody watching. If you found any of this useful or insightful at all, share it. Again, like and subscribe down below. If you're seeing this on our YouTube channel, either the Robin Hood Capitalist or Summit
Mentorship.
I'll remember that one of these times. Summit Mentorship. But again, until Thursday, and Danielle and Tony, besides what we shared, we'll be sharing with you guys later. We actually will on Thursday, me and Coach always break down with Coach's specialty of franchise coaching, what he's heard, what we've learned about premium service brands. Obviously seems like they're an amazing Zor. Seems like they're doing a lot of things right. And they're leading with service, like you said, so you can't ever fail if you're leading with service. So really look forward to breaking this down with Coach Thursday mornings. So Thursday at 9, we will be breaking this down live. So anybody watching this as well. But again, until Thursday, Coach, I guess we'll see you then. So
Yeah, see you Thursday.
Bye, y'all.
Thanks, guys.
I'm always on the red eye. This time around, it's not even about getting paid. I'm just an addict for